There was once a harp so magical that its music could calm storms, warm the coldest nights, and bring peace to every heart. This is the story of the Dagda, and the gentle song he lost and found again. There are stories in Celtic lands that drift like low morning mist, moving slowly through the hills as though they are part of the landscape itself. Stories that feel soft around the edges, worn smooth by generations of retelling. Stories meant not to excite the blood, but to calm the spirit, to remind the listener that even the gods once knew quiet moments, tender moments, moments of gentle longing. This is one such story. They say that long ago, when the world was young and the veil between mortal and immortal was thin as dew on a spider's web, Dagda, the great father of the Tuatha De Danann, carried with him a harp of such warmth and wonder that its music shaped the seasons. It was no ordinary instrument. Its frame was carved from the heartwood of an ancient tree that had grown on the border between the mortal world and the other world, its roots drinking moonlight, its leaves shimmering with stardust. Its strings were spun from threads of dawn and twilight woven together, and its sound could make a warrior weep, a storm quiet, a flower bloom, or a child drift into sleep. The harp did not merely play songs. It played feelings. It played winter when the world needed rest, and spring when the world needed waking. It played harvest when the fields were ready, and summer when joy asked for celebration. It held the memories of every creature that had ever lived, every blade of grass, every ripple of water, every sigh of wind. Dagda treasured it more than his staff or his cauldron, more than the treasures of kings or the secrets of druids. He kept it close, protected, cherished. For the harp was not only powerful, it was kind. Its melodies healed the soul, soothed the weary, comforted the lonely. And then one day it was lost, not stolen in a battle, nor dropped in haste, nor misplaced among other treasures. No, its disappearance was quiet, gentle even, almost fated. The story tells that Dagda had wandered into the mortal world on a warm summer evening, drawn by a feeling he could not name. He felt something in the air, like a forgotten melody tugging softly at the edges of memory. He walked through tall grasses that brushed his waist, their tips glowing golden in the late light. Fireflies drifted lazily around his shoulders, turning the air into a slow-moving constellation. The great god moved with surprising silence for someone of such size. His steps were steady, measured, almost thoughtful. He carried his harp in one hand, trailing it lightly so that the strings hummed the faintest whisper of sound, a soft murmur that blended with the evening breeze. Children sitting by their cottage windows felt calm without knowing why. Animals curled up to sleep earlier than usual. Even the river quieted its rushing, as though listening politely. The sun slipped lower. Dagda paused at the edge of a lake he had never seen before, a perfectly still sheet of silver that reflected the sky with such clarity it seemed like another world. Reeds swayed gently along the shore. A single heron stood on one leg, perfectly still, as though carved from moonlight. Something about this place felt expectant. Dagda sat upon a smooth stone, resting the harp across his lap. His fingers traced the strings, and a soft chord drifted across the water, so delicate it barely disturbed the air. Yet it shimmered and traveled, reaching far out into the lake's reflection. The water rippled. A voice, barely a whisper, rose from beneath the surface. It sounded neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It was like water speaking for the first time. "Play for me," it said. Dagda did not startle. Gods rarely startled. He only smiled a little, in that gentle way he reserved for fragile things. "What would you hear?" he asked. "Whatever your heart carries." So he played, a song of quiet dawns and peaceful journeys, and laughter shared under oak branches. A song of fields breathing in sunlight and children resting their heads in their mothers' laps. A song of simple joys, the kind too small for stories and too perfect for forgetting. As he played, the lake brightened, not with light, but with presence. Shapes moved beneath the water, soft, fluid, gliding like ribbons through the depths. Beings of the other world, old as rivers and shy as new leaves, rose just close enough for their outlines to shimmer through the surface. They listened, not with ears, but with hearts. When the song ended, the water settled again. The shapes faded. The heron lifted its head, as though stirring from a dream. And Dagda, feeling strangely lighter, placed the harp on his knee and closed his eyes for a moment. Just a moment, but when he opened them, the harp was gone. He blinked in confusion, looked left, right, behind him, at the reeds, at his feet. Nothing. The spot where it had rested on his knee was empty, as though the harp had turned into a breath of wind and drifted away. Dagda remained utterly still. Gods do not panic. They do not shout. They do not tear apart the world in fear. Not for objects, not even for treasures. But for a long time, he did nothing at all. Only listened. The air seemed quieter without the harp's presence. The world, somehow, a touch less complete. He placed his palm on the stone beside him, still warm. Then he felt it. Not a voice. Not a presence. A memory. His harp had not been taken. It had been called. The lake had wanted to hear a song. Not out of greed, but out of longing. And the harp, made from a tree whose roots touched many realms, had felt a longing of its own. For music not shaped by purpose, not bound to seasons, not tied to responsibility. It had followed a quiet yearning and slipped beneath the surface. Dagda stood slowly. The lake rippled once, just once, as if acknowledging him. He stepped into the water, its coolness wrapping around his ankles. He walked deeper until the lake reached his waist. But he did not dive. He did not disturb the resting world beneath. He only spoke softly, the way one might speak to a dear friend who has already made up their mind. "If you wish to go, you should have told me," he said. The lake shimmered. He smiled faintly. "You were never mine to keep." He stood there a long while, letting the water lap gently against him, until he understood. Some instruments sing best when they choose their own path. Some companions stay only until their journey calls them elsewhere. And some treasures are not meant to be held forever. Dagda walked out of the lake without sorrow. His steps were slow, peaceful. The reeds parted for him as he moved. Fireflies gathered around him in a glowing cloud, guiding him back to the world that waited. The sound of his harp no longer followed him, but the memory of it did. And sometimes, on rare nights when the moon is full and the wind carries a softness usually reserved for lullabies, people say they hear music drifting from a lake hidden somewhere in the countryside. A melody so warm it feels like someone placing a blanket around your shoulders. A melody so gentle it could coax a restless heart into sleep. A melody played not by hands, but by water itself. And the old tell their children, as they drift toward dreams, the harp wasn't lost. It simply went home.